Kathy Davis with City TV. Welcome to Inside Santa Barbara, the city's only news magazine show. We bring you up to date on the city's most significant issues, projects, and events. If you've been downtown recently, you've probably noticed a lot more color. But it's not fresh landscaping or a different set of flags. It's an innovative approach to public safety, and higher visibility is just one of the benefits.
The need for a public safety presence on State Street runs the spectrum, from simple directions
Yes. There's not.
to dealing with homeless issues
Do you know about the city's municipal code about sitting on the sidewalk?
to actual crime. But while sworn police officers are happy to help tourists with directions, it's not exactly the most efficient use of their time.
Obviously, it would be ideal to have police, down here 24/7 walking around. It's just not feasible for the requirements that we have throughout the city.
To increase the public safety presence downtown while at the same time freeing up sworn police officers so they can focus on crime, the city has come up with a colorful solution: specialized teams tasked with addressing the unique needs of Lower State Street.
It's been a response to community and business concerns, and we've experimented with it for a number of years and trying to find the right combination. And so it's trying to find a happy medium.
That happy medium comes in the form of 4 color-coded teams responding to specific areas of concern.
That place needs to be squirted off every day almost.
At one end of the spectrum are the red-shirted ambassadors.
We're customer service for State Street. We interact with transients, locals, tourists, students. There's a lot of foreign students down here, and then merchants. And really, I think of a lot of it as trying to keep things so that they're kind of tidy and functional for merchants, because there's just issues with different people sitting around and things. So we try to keep things cool and clean.
2 ambassadors patrol downtown between Sola and the Wharf from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 days a week. They communicate with downtown businesses on a continual basis and solve problems arising from nuisance behaviors in a friendly manner.
How you doing, boy? Look at you. It always works better to be friendly, especially with what we're doing, because we're not writing citations. So I find if you're trying to enforce something, it always works better to chat people up a little bit first, and then tell them why you're there, what you're trying to get them to comply with.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Another contingent of the downtown public safety team is the yellow-shirted community service liaisons.
They're downtown probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 hours a week. They also are on Milpas Street as well. And they're some really amazing guys. It's Chuck and Luis. And their job is to really try to reduce calls for service in both of those areas by trying to find solutions to immediate problems. And so they deal with a lot of low-level issues and trying to fix those so that the police do not have to respond.
Morning, sir. How you doing? You know there's a smoking ordinance in town now?
Chuck Reed, a chaplain with the police department, didn't exactly choose the job of community service liaison. It's more like it chose him.
So I got assigned here to pastor a local church. And on my first Sunday pastoring that local church, to get the butterflies off, I had to take a little walk. And I walked by the Veracruz Park. 9 o'clock Sunday morning, I look over in the corner as I go to the park, and there's 2 guys shooting up. And my prayer was, Lord, show me a way to help. 5 years later, here I am. How you doing today?
Community service liaisons address nuisance behavior and help connect the homeless with social services. But to get the homeless to accept help isn't easy. It requires trust, so liaisons strive to get to know their constituents, one person, one face, one name at a time.
Frank, how you doing this morning, buddy? Good to see you, man.
Likewise.
Much love. How you doing, Mike? Love those dogs. Yes, by name and by face, not just the transients, not just the traveler kids, but the business owners.
I met him obviously working here during the day, okay, and we had a discussion about how much, with our problem of the homeless here, that we need a caring solution, and not realizing what he did at first, and then now I know exactly what he does. This guy's a hero.
New additions to the public safety presence downtown are the gray-shirted volunteers in policing, or VIPs.
It's a cross-section of retired folks and some currently employed people that want to give back to the community. They're helping us with the foot patrol downtown, which is kind of one of the most visible. They work in the lobby as like a greeter, helping people understand where they need to go. If we need somebody to help us with, like a computer program, several of them are very well versed in computer things. So we're using them throughout the agency, but where they're most visible right now is downtown.
We help people, we connect with business people, we connect with the public, we try and give the face of law enforcement that is really true and authentic, and help people and support people where we can. We're also keenly aware of their safety, so we do give warnings about skateboarders. Same with bikers who bike on the sidewalk. That again is a violation. And so there are a number of violations that we try and respectfully enforce.
Hi there. All we ask is that you don't sit on the sidewalk. There's a city ordinance against sitting on the sidewalk. So if you move up onto a regular seat, that's appreciated very much.
Being homeless is not a crime. However, mental health and substance abuse problems can often put the homeless into conflict with other downtown users and on a collision course with the criminal justice system. But while there are many services in Santa Barbara to treat these conditions, the chronically homeless are frequently service resistant. With this in mind, 5 years ago, SBPD began the restorative policing program.
If I can get you back into that room, do you want to get it back into that room?
And they are working with our most chronic folks to try to capture that window in time where that particular person who is, these people are typically service resistant, that particular person is interested in getting help. And so it's getting to know those people, developing a relationship with them, and when they do want that help, being able to efficiently put them into some type of service, whether it could be housing or a job market or trying to get sober.
How are you doing? How are you holding up?
I'm fine.
There needs to be a bridge so that we can use in law enforcement the agencies and the people that are meant to be helping these people with that set of problems, as opposed to solely grab them, isolate them from the other, and put them in incarceration and or the penal system, where they now have compounded issues, financial, criminal issues, that make it hard for them to get back on the horse, back on the horse, actually. How long has it been since you were homeless? That's like 10 years, right?
Restorative Police Officer Keld Hove has been helping people get back on the horse for years now. He knows the homeless community well and has become an expert at determining when someone is ready and willing to accept help. Someone like Robert.
I met Officer Hove for a while now, from the streets.
From the streets?
Yeah, they've been trying to help me out for a while to get, but I don't want to do it, but got to the point that I've been getting in trouble for, go to restorative court for drinking alcohol on the streets.
By steering receptive clients into restorative court, the officers keep the homeless out of the penal system, saving taxpayer dollars. The restorative team also helps clients navigate the sometimes complex web of services available in Santa Barbara.
Many people help this clientele, but if you're isolated in your own little camp and you're doing it from your point of view and your point of view only, you're not grasping the big picture and you're not understanding how to put all the tools to bear to really make a difference on that particular person, which is why people navigate in that system for 20 years with lots and lots of resources thrown at you, but not in a coordinated and productive way. And that's what we're trying to do.
With the support of the restorative police officers, Robert is 6 months sober and in line for permanent housing for he and his dog Pluto. He also has a new perspective.
These people are actually like the people that, I can go to and I can trust now. They can help me out with problems, with issues that I'm having. If it wasn't for them, I would probably be out on the streets right now, drinking alcohol right now.
But sometimes connecting those in need with services is only half the battle. The lack of simple things like transportation and communication can often mean the difference between getting help or not. What's been needed are continuous point of contact and help with logistics. And this is where AmeriCorps comes in.
So that could be helping them with social services, getting them connected to benefits they might qualify for, doing housing applications with them, helping them go get if they need medical attention or sign them up for Medi-Cal, helping them if they need to get to the appointments, doing that as well. Hi, Lee.
Hey. Carissa Ferriolo is one of 2 AmeriCorps volunteers working downtown. She's forged relationships with many homeless people and helped them with the challenges that come with living on the street.
So Donald sleeps out on the streets, and someone stole his backpack with all his belongings, and for like an entire month he had nothing, and he was kind of just walking around. I got to know Donald. After we developed a relationship, he trusted me enough to, give his information to me so that I could help him. We called up social services. We got him another card. We also filled out an application for his social security card, his birth certificate, and the social security card. You need the birth certificate and an ID card. So this morning, we set up an appointment at the DMV for 10 o'clock to go get another ID card.
AmeriCorps volunteers are able to collect information on the homeless to better serve them, as well as track the program's effectiveness.
Depending on how vulnerable they are, it kind of prioritizes them in terms of some services and getting them on wait lists for housing, kind of moving them up.
In spite of the services and help available, some in the homeless community, like Donald, reach a point where they just want to move on. Restorative officers along with AmeriCorps now team up to help clients get past the many hurdles that can prevent them from leaving, while at the same time ensuring they're going to a supportive place.
And that person maybe never intended to stay in State Street. They're from somewhere else, or they just got stuck here and they just financially can't get themselves up and able to move on. We can work on determining whether that person has someone on the receiving end.
We can have the funding potentially. We can help with the criminal aspects so that you can be free of those criminal aspects in exchange for you raising yourself up a level. And that's really what it is. I am not here to sustain people in a low level of function. I'm here to help them raise up into the next level and the next level and kind of break the barriers for the things that are in the way for them to go there.
The new, more visible combination of public safety teams downtown has improved customer service and increased responsiveness to maintenance and nuisance issues. The dedicated ambassadors, community service liaisons, volunteers in policing, restorative police officers, and AmeriCorps staff are on the street every day, making sure things are cool and clean while being firm but friendly.
We definitely see it, on what we're committing as far as the raw numbers that we have downtown walking around. We're getting feedback from different community members that they feel like there's an increased presence, and so we're definitely feel like we're making some forward ground in that spot.
Some of the business owners will come out, they'll thank us for what we're doing. Hey, I've got an issue with this block or that block, can you come out here and watch it? Even the sweet little old lady who has got nothing to do, she'll say things like, I feel much better that you're out here. I feel safer that you're out here.
If you'd like to learn more about the public safety presence downtown, contact Lieutenant Dan McGrew at dmcgrew@sbpd.com. Santa Barbara's main thoroughfare, State Street, has seen major transformations over the decades. From dirt and horse and buggies to pavement and automobiles, one thing has been constant. It's the economic engine that drives downtown. Now, a new endeavor is being undertaken to make a portion of the street more inviting and keep that economic engine tuned up.
We want to enhance the underpass and build a strong connection between the waterfront and downtown areas. But really what's so important is to create a very unique space where the community can come and it can really become an iconic area for Santa Barbara. And to do that, we want everyone to get involved and give us their ideas about how they can use the space. This is a great opportunity for us to highlight art, science, technology, renewable energy, and show off what the community really cares about.
In the 1950s, Caltrans built Highway 101 through the middle of town, separating Santa Barbara, effectively creating a barrier to getting from one side of town to the other. The impacts of this separation are still evident today all over Santa Barbara.
The challenge for us now as a community is how do we bridge those two spaces? The challenge is right behind us. It's the interchange.
It doesn't really pull you in. There's nothing special. Sometimes it's a little dirty. It's hard to keep it clean all the time. It's narrow, so it's a little hard to pass people going the other direction.
In its current state, this underpass does not reflect well on the importance of its location in the community.
You know, I think it's seen as a separator. It separates the wharf, the Children's Museum, the Funk Zone, Cabrillo from the lower part of State Street. And I believe the idea of enhancing this in some way, it makes it a place to visit.
I think with the connectivity to the Funk Zone and to the rejuvenated beach area, especially with La Entrada, I think there's been a gap, particularly the first couple blocks. It's a lonely underpass, and I think that to have something exciting would bring people through with a smile on their face. I think it'd be great for downtown.
Above the freeway, we've been at 2 lanes since 1969. Down below the freeway, we went to 2 lanes in the past decade. Under the freeway, it's 5. So now we have to make it logically fit, we need to narrow those lanes and add more people space. There's some pretty serious limitations on what can and can't happen here, but it's certainly a more enhanced bike lane, maybe with a barrier, to create a much safer and more protected lane for the bike traffic. The bike traffic here is pretty heavy, and the pedestrian traffic could be enhanced by that as well. Our goal with this process is to try to make the interchange not just to eliminate the barrier, but make it attractive to go both ways and to be something that is inviting.
It needs to be an outdoor art project to get people to come through it, feel safe, and enjoy the experience.
I love the idea of having public art. It's a blank canvas, and I think to bring some excitement to it and some public art to it would be money well spent, and I think it would be a boon and a good thing for the spirit of Santa Barbara as well as for business.
Art provides a unique element to any given built space that creates an opportunity for our constituents and for visitors to really interact with the local environment in a way that they otherwise wouldn't be able to.
So if we create something here that has a certain kind of an appeal, whether it's word of mouth or there's something that they see that creates a visceral draw-in, then they're going to want to drop in, experience it, go to the other side, and then barbell over to the other part of the commerce of the city. I think this has an opportunity to be a civic pin that it would be a destination for international travels to go have you seen this thing? It's unbelievable. And it appeals on a technological level, it appeals on a visceral level.
And I think public art is a great way to get people engrossed in their downtown, to feel a sense of pride, to want to bring their friends when they come to visit, their family. And that's what it's all about, having this great community in Santa Barbara and having a vital downtown that we can all enjoy.
One of the most important parts of this effort is getting people engaged and helping people really dream about how they could use the space and what's possible.
The city held a public workshop in November to gather input from the community about the future of the underpass. The event was well attended and many creative ideas were discussed.
It's dark in the underpass, so perhaps add lighting, solar tubes, natural lighting, music perhaps, a large mural depicting animals you can see in the harbor, an interactive exhibit provided by the Sea Center, for the kids.
Sure, the flow. Here's the flow, and I'm glad a transportation expert was here today.
Then in the inside, we are in a transition zone ecologically. It'd be so cool to educate visitors and our populace about that. So you would have one half of this area devoted to land mammals with the visuals of the lights at night, so that people would visit and say, I have to come see what this looks like at night.
Cities that have a lot of civic art or points of interest, people want to bounce and swim through the city. And I think we could use more of that here. If you were to look at it like verticals, what are the highest verticals of importance with this project? And it seems right now like one of them would be just general beautification, but I think probably the top priority is going to be bringing an economic flow that makes this process absolutely appealing and actually a place you'd want to go.
I think everyone has a piece of public art that's inspired them, something they've traveled to, seen in another city, or maybe something they've seen online. We created a Pinterest page for the community to check out and get ideas from different cities all over the world and see what's possible for the underpass.
To view the comments made by the public at the November 15th workshop, visit the city website at santabarbaraca.gov/underpassart. We'll be right back with more Inside Santa Barbara.
In a disaster, it's not just your needs you have to consider. All members of your family have to be ready. Don't forget the pets.
Welcome back. Santa Barbara is an international destination known for its beauty, pristine coastline, and healthy lifestyle. That's why the city recently adopted a new ordinance to help protect that beauty and make Santa Barbara a healthier, more enjoyable place to live. Whether you're walking down State Street, having lunch on a patio, or strolling along the beach, you've probably seen someone smoking a cigarette. That's a sight you will see less of in Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara just took a huge step in becoming a clean, healthy, smoke-free city.
After months of discussion and public input, the City Council unanimously voted to adopt a new ordinance that bans smoking in public places.
I think they've come up from a public health perspective with a very far-reaching ordinance. They're basically saying you can't smoke in public. And what's very exciting about that is we join almost the entire south coast of California.
We reviewed laws in place in different cities, different approaches, and we really wanted to find an approach that would work the best for Santa Barbara and meet our needs.
Smoking is defined to include tobacco, marijuana, and electronic vaping devices.
With this new law in place, what that means for the public is that smoking is no longer allowed in public areas. So this includes sidewalks in commercial and residential areas throughout the city, parks, beaches, Stearns Wharf, the harbor walkways, outdoor recreational areas, outdoor plaza areas of the library. It also includes city-owned public parking structures, parking lots, and paseos that lead to the downtown area. It also includes outdoor dining areas before 10 p.m.
Restaurants can, however, choose to allow smoking after 10 p.m. Other areas where smoking will still be allowed includes bar patios at all hours and on the municipal golf course between the 1st and 18th holes. This new law was developed to address problems and concerns of Santa Barbara residents in relation to smoking, with one of the major issues being the impact it has on our environment.
Cigarette butts can be pretty damaging to the ocean environment. You'd think that they're just an extension of kind of like the paper portion of the cigarette, but they're actually made of plastic. So they're these tiny pieces of plastic that end up in the sand, they end up in our creeks and streams, they end up in our estuaries, and eventually we all know now that it is going out to the ocean at some point. The last cleanup that we did, Coastal Cleanup Day, just at East Beach, there were 1,300 cigarette butts that we picked up in a span of just 3 hours.
What I see walking around the harbor here is a lot of cigarette butts on the sidewalks. Those are right 3 feet away from our harbor. Those get pushed, they get windblown, they get thrown into the water, and that water goes out into our oceans. We have local seafood living and thriving here in Santa Barbara in our channel, and all those cigarette butts go out into that channel. And also our marine birds. They don't know what they're picking up when they pick up a cigarette butt, and who knows how that is affecting them.
By adopting this ordinance, the city hopes to not only see a major reduction in the amount of cigarette butts that end up in our streets, creeks, and beaches, but also a reduced risk to public safety in the way of fires, particularly on Stearns Wharf.
We have an additional concern, and that is the entire wharf is made out of wood. And so fire is a big concern with the cigarettes as well when people discard them and they smolder and can cause fires.
Unfortunately, fires caused by cigarettes on the wharf are all too common, including 3 that happened in just one day this past spring. One of the largest fires occurred in 2002 when a portion of the Nature Conservancy building was destroyed.
That was determined by the fire department to be started by a cigarette, and instead of just smoldering, it burst into flame.
Another impact smoking has on our community is exposure to secondhand smoke.
It's been shown as early as 1981 that secondhand smoke can cause cancer of the lung, and more recently, around 1986, it's been shown that it also can cause coronary heart disease and stroke. So it's conclusive that secondhand smoke has serious side effects and can cause serious diseases in adults and in children, unfortunately. In children, it's even worse. When they're exposed to secondhand smoke, they can get lung irritation and lung disease, and irritation of the eyes, and even increased frequency of ear infections.
Going forward, the city is actively working to inform the public about the new ordinance.
We're going to start mostly with education so that the public and the businesses know that it's no longer allowed anywhere on the wharf, and we'll eliminate the designated areas. And we're working right now with city administration on signage so we have a consistent message throughout the city about limitations on smoking.
Another way the city has been informing the public about the new law is through various programs like the Ambassadors on State Street and Volunteers in Policing, who interact with residents and visitors on a daily basis.
When we see people smoking, we approach them very gently, very cautiously, and respectfully ask them to stop smoking. We inform them that it's now for about 3-4 weeks. This has been a city ordinance that is ongoing. Gratifyingly have 99% compliance so far. People are very good about understanding why this ordinance came about.
The city will use verbal warnings and public education as the primary means of enforcement. It's up to each of us to understand the law and smoke away from public areas. By making Santa Barbara smoke-free, the city hopes to provide a healthy, family-friendly, clean environment for both residents and visitors.
I think that this will definitely greatly reduce the amount of cigarette butts that we find. On the county beaches, it's already a rule that you are not supposed to be smoking, and we find drastically less. So hopefully we can get a unified front of Santa Barbara's coastlines and make it so that we're not finding these tiny pieces of plastic that are eventually going to photodegrade into these even smaller pieces and be really damaging for the environment.
You know, we get tourists from all over the world here. It is a pristine area. You know, it's beautiful Santa Barbara, God's country, right? And when there's cigarette smoke, people are inhaling that, they're smelling that, and it affects the experience. And we are a beautiful location. We have beautiful beaches, we have beautiful trees, flowers, and that smoke has a negative effect.
For more information about the new smoking ordinance, visit santabarbaraca.gov/smoking. Diverse landscapes and beautiful scenery are what come to mind when thinking of California. However, California's water history has shaped much of the state's agricultural and urban areas. With one of the largest water conveyance systems in the world, California has been able to deliver a reliable water supply to drought-prone areas of the state. Priscilla Kang has the story. The majority of precipitation and major surface water sources in our state are in Northern California. However, most of the urban and agricultural demands for water are in Central and Southern California. To bring water supply reliability to the state, the California State Legislature designed, received voter approval for, and built the State Water Project in the 1950s and 60s. The State Water Project is monumental in more ways than one. Not only was it an ambitious and architecturally advanced feat, but it also embodied unification and development. Portions of the State Water Project include major facilities, such as San Luis Reservoir, that are shared with the Federal Central Valley Project.
And what this project also symbolizes is the state working with the federal government, the local communities working with the state. This program is unique in this area. There is no other project in the history of the United States where a state has put in such a large contribution to the development of its own resources and where the national government has joined with the state. This has brought your state to be the pioneer in the United States in the field of development and conservation of our natural resources. California in this area is #1.
Pat Brown, who is Jerry Brown's father, was the one that was pushing for the State Water Project in the late 50s and then early 1960s. There was a vote of the people of the state of California to issue general obligation bonds in the amount of $1.75 billion. Those general obligation bonds were used to construct the major portions of the project at that point in time. And so that was the genesis of the State Water Project. And Pat Brown was really the one that was pushing for that. And so he really is credited with building the State Water Project at the state of California.
Today, the State Water Project is a water storage and delivery system of reservoirs, aqueducts, power plants, and pumping plants. It extends for more than 600 miles, 2/3 the length of California, and is the largest state-built multi-purpose water project in the United States. It provides drinking water to more than 25 million Californians and irrigation water to over 750,000 acres of farmland. The project consists of water conveyance facilities built by the state and regional distribution and treatment facilities like the ones constructed by the Central Coast Water Authority, or CCWA, to deliver water to Santa Barbara County.
CCWA is a governmental agency that was formed as a joint powers authority in 1991 to construct and maintain state water project facilities to bring state water into Santa Barbara County. It's composed of 13 member agencies, 8 of which are public member agencies. That includes the City of Santa Maria, City of Guadalupe, City of Buellton, Santa Ynez Improvement District Number 1, that also includes City of Solvang, Goleta Water District, Montecito Water District, City of Santa Barbara, and Carpinteria Valley Water District. We also serve Vandenberg Air Force Base and Golden State Water Company, as well as 2 other private entities.
The Department of Water Resources, or DWR, oversaw the construction of the coastal branch, which was broken into 2 phases. Phase 1 is a 15-mile-long canal from the California Aqueduct near the Kings-Kern County line to the Devil's Den pumping plant, just east of Paso Robles. Phase 2 is a 101-mile buried pipeline that extends to San Luis Obispo and ends just east of Pismo Beach. At that point, CCWA facilities convey water the rest of the way. While Phase 1 was completed in 1968, construction of Phase 2 was halted in the 1970s due to extended rainy years and sufficient water supplies to meet demands. In the 1980s, Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo County had increasing water demands and concerns about pumping too much groundwater. Local water providers saw the benefits in diversifying supplies and the ability to receive water from other areas of the state if connected to the state water pipeline. In June 1991, during the 1987-92 drought, City of Santa Barbara voters, along with other local jurisdictions, approved financing Phase 2 facilities to connect to the state water pipeline. In September 1991, CCWA was formed to construct, manage, and operate the local facilities to bring the state water project to Santa Barbara County. The formation of CCWA and its role in the constructing of Phase 2 facilities helped advance the project. However, with pressures to meet construction deadlines, time was of the essence.
We estimated that for each day of delay, it cost between $60,000 and $100,000. And so everything was done as much as possible to mitigate against potential delays. But in 1995, DWR determined that they were behind schedule, that they would not be able to meet the deadlines and would delay potential deliveries of the water. And so they contracted with the CCWA to design and construct that portion of the pipeline. And that was unprecedented at that time. And because we took that over, we were able to bring the project in on time and on budget.
With the help of the CCWA, Phase 2 was completed in 1997. There are 3 10,500 horsepower pumping plants to convey the water, including a 1,500-foot elevation gain in one section. The entire project was completed in 1997 with an estimated total cost of $590 million, which in today's dollars would be about $900 million. The first water reached Cachuma in November of 1997. To ensure that Santa Barbara has access to safe drinking water during times of drought and emergency, the city has a diverse water supply portfolio. Santa Barbara receives water from the following sources: surface water from Gibraltar and Cachuma, groundwater, recycled water, water conservation, the desalination plant, and the State Water Project. When surface water from Gibraltar and Cachuma becomes scarce during droughts, the city relies heavily on the State Water Project, as well as groundwater and desalination. The city is entitled to up to 3,300 acre-feet per year from the State Water Project. However, we don't always receive this amount.
There are a number of factors that go into determining the allocations. The primary driver for why we see so much variation from year to year is that it's a surface water system. So it's highly dependent on rainfall in Northern California and snowpack in the Sierra Mountains.
Although in 2017 the allocation was as high as 85%, during the recent drought we experienced state water allocations as low as a record-breaking 5%. When allocations are low, the city works with CCWA to participate in supplemental water purchases to increase deliveries of imported water as needed. The amount of water that can be delivered is based on the CCWA pipeline capacity to Cachuma. The city is entitled to its proportional share of capacity. However, additional pipeline capacity becomes available when other agencies are not using their share. During the drought, the city was able to maximize deliveries to Lake Cachuma by using not only the city's share of capacity, but also the capacity that was not being used by others.
I think one of the greatest benefits that we've seen with the State Water Project is our connectedness to the rest of the state. Having that infrastructure in place has really allowed us to pursue supplemental water purchase opportunities and keep the pipe flowing full to Cachuma throughout the drought.
In addition to water purchases or transfers, groundwater banking is another option that the CCWA is considering in order to improve reliability of state water.
One of the issues we've seen is a lack of storage on the state water system. So what happens in a really wet year is we have too much water and we're not able to capture it. And the water that we've carried over and saved from previous years is subject to spill. Last year there was a spill at San Luis Reservoir that will probably happen again this year. And so groundwater banking would be a great way for us to try and capture and save some of that water by moving it into a place that it can be stored. We'll move it in during wet years, pull it out in dry years when we need it.
The beauty of CCWA is that if one of our member agencies has excess water that they don't need or can't use, we have the ability within CCWA to just move that water around so very, very easily. All it takes is just both agencies agreeing on a transfer form that one's going to sell it to the other one, and it's done.
The State Water Project has proven to be an important water source for the city during the recent drought. It is also an important water source for all of Central and Southern California. No other state has the ability to move water from wetter areas to drier areas like California does. The State Water Project infrastructure and statewide connectedness will continue to bring unique opportunities for California water management for generations to come. For more information about the Central Coast Water Authority, visit ccwa.com. We'll be right back with more Inside Santa Barbara. Now is the best time of year to plant. For spring color, plants need to establish roots in winter. Upgrade your landscape to a beautiful, low-maintenance, water-wise garden. And make mowing a thing of the past. Put down your roots. Find garden inspiration at waterwisesb.org.
Unlike landlines, cell phones are not automatically registered with the reverse 911 system. That means if you don't register,
this is the Santa Barbara County Reverse 911 system. Due to the community emergency, authorities are issuing a mandatory
you won't get the call. To register your cell phone, go to awareandprepare.org.
Welcome back. In our continuing coverage of the watersheds of Santa Barbara, Chris Bell turns his sights to Sycamore Creek, a watershed with a lot of history.
The creek
was very much a part of our lives. My sister and I and all the various children that lived around here, because we would play in it and watch the water coursing by during the winter after there had been rains, and we would just kind of build little houses and little streets, and I would take some toy cars down and we'd just make our own little village, our own little play area.
75 years ago, Sycamore Creek was more than just a fun place for kids to play. It was a direct connection to nature.
Sometimes we would walk in the dry creek to go under the highway. It was not a freeway then, and so we would walk all the way down to where the creek came out near Dwight Murphy Field and just go to East Beach and just spend the summers there.
But the 20th century wasn't kind to urban watersheds. It was a time when development took priority over the natural environment, the impacts of which can be seen today. A case in point can be found at the base of the watershed where Sycamore Creek and what is now known as the Andre Clark Bird Refuge used to be connected.
It connected to the bird refuge, and during the summer months when there was not much flow, they were probably connected all the time and had water between the two. In the winter months when there's more rain and the mouth of Sycamore Creek broke through, there would be probably even less water in the bird refuge than there is now, because it would drain out. It would look more like Devereaux Slough at that point.
But that important relationship ended when the two were separated at the birth of an iconic roadway.
When they built Cabrillo, they straightened Sycamore to come straight out to the ocean, and then they straightened the mouth of the bird refuge to go straight out to the ocean also. So they became disconnected at that point.
The unintended consequences of that separation can not only be seen, they can be smelled.
They put basically a dam or a weir at the mouth of the bird refuge to pool up water so that they would have an open water feature, and that's when it became called the bird refuge. And so the ducks like it for sure, you know, it's a big open water. But immediately after they did that, we started getting odor issues with the bird refuge, and they haven't stopped since.
That pattern of altering a creek for progress only to discover negative results was repeated with the construction of bridges for the next big roadway project, Highway 101.
Those bridges were undersized for the creek, so when it flooded, it would create flooding issues for the highway and for the communities around there once those bridges were built.
To reduce flooding, the city, county, and state have been doing flood control and bridge replacement projects along Sycamore Creek for the last few years. During each of these projects, the Creeks Division has worked with the lead agency to help strike a balance between flood control, habitat improvement, and water quality.
We try to work with them to widen the creek channel and put in some natural vegetation and trees so that we improve habitat and water quality and expand the channel for flood capacity.
Major restoration and water quality projects on the Sycamore watershed have been few and far between, simply because there isn't a lot of publicly owned land on the watershed to do them on. Long-term change, however, is occurring in the form of the Stormwater Management Program. The Stormwater Management Program, or SWIMP, is the city's response to state and federal water quality standards requirements.
And part of those are for us to regulate new and redevelopment of the city. The bottom line is we're trying to get them to retain some of the water on their parcel rather than run it all off into the streets and the creeks and into the ocean quickly.
When runoff is slowed down and allowed to soak in, it gets filtered naturally, and it helps recharge groundwater supplies.
Theoretically, doing that on a lot of parcels in a watershed will slow down the amount of runoff coming off of the properties and in the watershed during flood events, and so that can help with flooding issues.
But flooding isn't the only challenge for the Sycamore Creek watershed. Like all the lower watersheds in the city, litter is a recurrent issue, one that the Creeks Division spends a lot of time and resources on.
Yeah, we do trash pickup all the time on Sycamore Creek. We do have some homeless issues on Sycamore Creek, like all our creeks, and so we clean up those.
However, the Creeks Division isn't the only one picking up trash on the watershed, as we discovered on a recent coastal cleanup day.
Do you want to take this one for recycling too? It's a day where all over California, people come together to go clean up the beaches, and I'm out here at East Beach, and I'm with an organization called Tomorrow's Green, and there's a lot of young people coming out today to help out.
Going forward, the Creeks Division will continue to look for opportunities to improve conditions on the Sycamore Creek watershed. At the same time, it's up to all of us to affect change in the little ways, like increasing permeability on our properties, reducing pollution, and, like the generations before us, appreciating the gifts we have.
I personally really love East Beach. I also love playing volleyball, and ever since I was young, I've always really cared about the environment, and it's always been a very important cause for me. I also think it really benefits the community, and I just want to be a part of it and help how I can.
If you'd like to learn more about our watersheds or how you can help care for them, visit sbcreeks.com. Being a diverse community sometimes has its challenges. Up next, we'll show you how one neighborhood came together to make Santa Barbara a better place for everyone.
In past years, the Mesa neighborhood surrounding Santa Barbara City College has had some challenges to overcome, such as excessive noise, parking issues, and overcrowding.
So I think Santa Barbara recognized that the tools that we had in the toolbox weren't the most effective for the problem that we were dealing with. And different tools, such as the municipal code section, can really help address a problem in a manner that seems more fair to everybody involved.
A task force made up of SBCC staff, students, neighbors, city government, and police was formed to help address some of these problems.
One of the main issues that we learned through this process of talking with the community was there was a real concern about noise. And we recognize that, we have a lot of young students that live in the neighborhood, and it's a really important issue, something that we take really seriously.
Previously, California Penal Code 415 of disturbing the peace was an officer's only option in response to a noise complaint call.
So one of the frustrating things about 415 of the California Penal Code, our peace as police officers can't be disturbed while we're on duty. So if it's really loud or it seems really loud to us, it doesn't matter. You have to have a victim who's willing to sign the citation. But unfortunately for the police, issuing a verbal warning without any teeth behind it, without any ability to enforce it, sometimes it's just empty words, and people started to realize that.
It was so frustrating in years past to see the police come and they couldn't do anything. The kids knew they weren't going to nothing was going to happen, they would just have to break it up.
At the recommendation of the Neighborhood Task Force, a new city noise ordinance was drafted and the Student Neighborhood Assistance Program, or SNAP, was formed.
The college's role was in supporting the noise ordinance, supporting the SNAP program, and providing seed money of $100,000 towards the beginning of that program, which is administered by the city and the police department.
With the implementation of the new noise ordinance comes the task of education and enforcement. That's where the SNAP officers come in.
Their primary focus is noise calls. They work on the busy times when we see the highest volume of noise-related calls and complaints around the city, and they focus on education.
We help the officers, instead of sending sworn-in officers to noise complaint calls, we go instead, so that just in case there's a higher priority call, they are available to go to those and we can handle the noise complaint calls.
After the police department has received a complaint, a pair of SNAP officers are dispatched. At that point, the offenders will receive a warning, along with education on the new municipal code. Then, a follow-up letter will be sent to both the offender and the property owner, as well as the residents being placed on a 9-month no-warning list.
Going to their house, knocking on the door, updating dispatch, letting them know that the location we're at, and just interacting with the person.
Hi. If following this warning, the police department receives more noise complaints, an administrative citation will be issued, with fines starting at $350 for both the residents and the property owner.
We just tell them who we are. We tell them we work for the police department, but that we're not here to give them tickets. We're here to help them out before they have to get a ticket. And usually that's just how it goes.
When SNAP officers are not responding to noise complaints that they're dispatched to, they look for parking problems within the neighborhoods throughout Santa Barbara, but often they focus in areas where the party calls are happening.
So we've had far fewer complaints or calls about parking in the surrounding neighborhoods. So it's a great use for these SNAP officers, and we've heard positive feedback from the neighborhood about that.
When we formed the program, our intention was to have all of our SNAP officers that work out in the field to be students. And so currently that is part of the requirement that we have in the position when we're recruiting, is that they be a currently enrolled or about to be enrolled student in one of our local colleges.
The peer-to-peer relationship offers offending parties a chance to learn about the new laws and also what the consequences are if officers have to get involved. In many cases, the violators are happy to have their first contact with a peer rather than a sworn officer. And because of this, officers are available for more pressing calls for service.
The first one starts at $3.50 and it doubles each time.
So they're more relaxed, they're more friendly with us. They like the fact that we tell them, like, we're not here to give you a citation, we're here to help you out and give you a warning instead. And that makes them feel really good. Like afterwards, when we have a little conversation, they always tell us like, oh, that took a lot of pressure, like knowing that we're not here to like get a ticket, and we're not here to do that.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
To contact the police for a non-emergency or noise complaint, call 882-8900. Well, that does it for this episode of Inside Santa Barbara. If you have any questions or comments about the show, you can give us a call at 564-5311. If you missed something, not to worry, you can watch the show online at santabarbaraca.gov/citytv. I'm your host, Becky Davis, and remember to get involved inside Santa Barbara.